Please welcome Noam.
Hi, I'm Noam. Let's talk about watches. I think watches are really cool, so I wanted to make a watch style. Watches are a sort of combination of art where they're made to look really nice, and that's how they make a lot of money, but also they are very precise in their mechanics, and that's how they are hard to make and also make a lot of money. Together, that creates just one thing that, as Miss P said, it's also jewelry. And it's very stylized. So I wanted to make one, and we decided that I would be making a model of a skeleton watch. Now, a skeleton watch is one where you can see the gears on the inside from the outside. Usually it's all covered up, but in this case you get a little bit more of the technical aspect, even though it's a model. I made a model because I can make it bigger, which will make it easier for you to see, or I could hang it up somewhere and it would be easier to see. I can make it static. That means it doesn't have to work, which is really, really great. And at the same time, I can also make it not accurate in ways. Let's say my gears will have some shapes cut into them that would probably make it mechanically inefficient and horrible. And I can use materials which would be mechanically inefficient and horrible, but look nice. They look awesome, like acrylic. So I started out planning how I would make it look. This is a sketch that I made in the sketchbook. This is the final one. I had a lot of ideas, but the main thing I wanted to do was try and take the actual gears and the front and make them work together to make one cohesive look. Afterwards, I would have to figure out how gears actually work and how a watch actually works. This was a very fun part for me, was just learning about this cool thing on the inside, and then I recreated it in Illustrator. I laser cut it, painted, and assembled it. Quite similar to what we've done for the stacked art, but it's got more materials, more parts, and more research. So this is a watch on the inside. Here we start with the mainspring. I didn't actually do the spiral. There would be a spiral here, it's a spring, and it winds, and it goes to gears. This would be this is the minute hand. We've got gears that take it with very specific ratios and get it back up to make an hour hand. And then there are more gears that take it to seconds, and eventually there's this balance wheel here, which with a ticking mechanism makes it tick at specific intervals, which in this case would be seconds. And you might be wondering why there's so much empty space up here and down here, and that's because I ran out of time. So let's start over. I'm Noam, let's talk about gears. Okay, there's a lot of math to gears. The graph is for effect, but I wanted to do some sort of semblance to accuracy, which was a waste of time, and I don't regret it. Every gear ended up being different in how big it was and how big the teeth were, and how many teeth it had even, and so this led to me having to not exactly start over, but redo each gear slightly separately. To try and cover up the gaps, I at some point was trying to flip the image. You can see there are a lot of layers. But in the end, it looks, I brought it back. I had added pieces like this blue one to just try and get rid of the empty space. And in the end, I'm quite pleased with the result. The next step was to make it physical, so I made some of it out of acrylic, which I thought was neat. All the gears were made of acrylic. I think it's a sort of way to keep it slightly still invisible, even though it is more visible than in a normal watch. I made the border out of wood. A challenge that I faced was that the model was larger than the wood pieces, so I had to get creative in breaking up the parts. And then I painted it. There are not very many good photos because I was in a rush. And then I assembled it. We've got the gear train, and it's done. So that's really it. I can perhaps pass it around, although it's quite big and falling apart. Maybe, no, it's not falling apart. really, as a reflection, I think I could have managed my time a little bit better with deciding to do the gears as I did them a little bit earlier. With that being said, I am proud of how I pulled it together in the end, and I think I'll open up to questions. Yes.
How did you decide on the colors?
The colors were generally chosen based on how the scene really would have been with I wanted the blue for the ocean and the lighter one for the sky. And then there's just a lot of gold because gold is fancy and watches are fancy. And a lot of the reference images were gold. Yes.
So I have two questions. First, like, what sort of inspired you to like do watches? Like, have you always been interested? And then my second question is like, are you planning on like giving this to someone, or is it just for you? And like, what are you gonna do with it?
So the first one, to answer your first question, yeah, I just thought I've thought watches are really cool. I've seen various people and they're like, oh, you have a watch, and so I wanted to look into that more. For the second one, I think I might just keep it and take it with me to perhaps my dorm next year, because at least my parents would probably not find a place for it, for example, so I haven't really found anyone to give it to. Yeah.
You fell off.
Yeah, that's understandable. Just
Did you want to fix it?
I'll fix it after. Yeah, the gluing is a little, especially it was probably in the back. Just throw it on top for now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Where did you get the inspiration to do like an ocean like sailboat scene?
I was thinking about, so one thing is you need the axles, or if there were axles, there aren't, but you would need it to cover up the middle of each gear to actually reach it. So I thought that the sun and its rays would be a really cool way to do it. Initially, I thought that the water you would be able to see the motion under it if it were actually moving, which it isn't. And at the end of the day, it was really something that had enough parts to cover everything up. Yeah.
First of all, I just think it's really cool. And then I was just wondering if you could just explain what all that stuff on Desmos was. Like,
I was trying to get a lot of precise numbers, even though it doesn't work and would not actually have to be precise. The gears barely turn. They do turn, just not with the watch levels of efficiency. Gears have. Do I have any pictures of gears? Gears have the end height, but they also have the inside height, and then the height that they're actually turning and the gears are actually touching is somewhere in the middle. And so to get that as in combination with the angles that you end up with, because it's a circle and repeated, like when we made the mandalas, we were encouraged to just guesstimate for our triangle references, because that would be significantly faster and just about as good. But I wanted it to be very close, or as close as I could. Yeah. Yeah.
I know you showed some pictures at like the start. Do you have any like brands or watches that kind of like inspired you?
No, a lot of brands do very nice watches that are not skeleton watches. So when I was looking for designs, I was specifically looking for ones that had just various designs that were varied and still showed the inside, and so that came from a variety of different watchmakers. Thank you.